Okay, welcome back, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming. You know, in the rain, it's not so easy. But thank you, everyone, for still making it out here.
To see Rabbi Yaakov.
I just want to say
Can't
happy
miss it.
birthday, Papa. You know, without you, honestly, I don't think we would even have this year with all these people. You make this organization happen. You get everyone to come, the food, the everything. Thank you so much. So let's just jump into this week's Parsha. This week's Parsha, we know, is Tetzaveh. Tetzaveh, there's a famous thing that goes around. It's the first time that Moshe's name is taken away from the Parsha ever since he's born. So we're going to try to explain tonight, what does this have to do? Why specifically in this week's Parsha?
What's the topic?
The topic is, not the topic, one thing we're going to deal with is why is Moshe Rabbeinu's name taken out of this week's Parsha? For the first time ever since he was born, they took out his name. Last week, the final word of the Parsha was Nechoshet. Nechoshet means copper. Rashi explains that the word Nechoshet is an acronym for 4 words. We have Nun, which is Ner. We have Chodesh, Shkalim, and Tireh. 4 words. Candle, which is in reference to the menorah. We have Chodesh, which is Rosh Chodesh. Shkalim, which is Machatzita Shekel. Tireh, you will see. So this is the final word, the acronym in last week's Parsha. And it's right next to this week's Parsha. It's called, in fancy English, a juxtaposition. The reason why 2 words are put next to each other. So we're going to explain. Rashi says the reason why Ve'ata Tetzaveh, which is the beginning of this week's Parsha, is put right next to the word Nechoshet, copper, which we said symbolizes 3 different mitzvot, is because Moshe did not comprehend 3 mitzvot. These 3 mitzvot, he couldn't understand them. What were the 3 mitzvot? One more time. Ner, which is the menorah, Rosh Chodesh, and Shkalim, Machatzita Shekel. So the question is, how could it be that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand 3 mitzvot? If we right now understand them, how could Moshe, who understood things much deeper and he grasped way deeper concepts than we could, how do you now understand these very 3 simple mitzvot? So the Zerah Shimshon explains that not that he didn't understand the actual mitzvah of the menorah or the actual mitzvah of the Machatzita Shekel, but he didn't understand. Right now we're going to see the connection. 3 of these indicated that he will not come into Eretz Yisrael, and it had to do with his name being erased from this parsha. So the question is, why does he need 3 indications from 3 different mitzvot of why he's not going to come into the land of Israel, why he's not going to lead the Jewish people to Eretz Yisrael? So there's actually, I didn't know this, but there's 3 sins, 3 averot that Moshe did that caused him to be kicked out of Eretz Yisrael. Number 1 is Shelachna b'yat tishlach. Moshe Rabbeinu is standing by the burning bush, and Hashem tells him, you know, you're going to go right now and take the Jews out of Mitzrayim. And he says, me, who am I? Take someone else, let someone else lead them. Why should I be the leader? This is what Moshe tells Hashem. Moshe says, because you denied leadership, because you denied the rights that you had to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, I'm going to punish you, and you will not enter the land of Israel together with them. That's the first sin he did. He denied leadership. Number 2, he goes for the first time in an attempt to go persuade Paro to take the Jews out. What did Paro do at the end? Paro said, you're trying to get these Jews out. The Jews are thinking about leaving. Let's make the work even harder.
Well,
he makes the straw. So, but listen what he did. He goes to Hashem and he says, Lama hare'ota lama zeh. Why did you do evil to this nation? He's complaining to Hashem already. Because he's complaining to Hashem, this second sin is the reason why he's going to be kicked out of Israel and not going to be let in. And the third is that he accepted the Erev Rav. He accepted the Mitzrayim when they wanted to convert, right, the Erev Rav. And we know what happened to the Erev Rav. What did they make the Jewish people do?
Golden calf.
The Egel Hazav. The Egel Hazav, says the Zerah Shimshon, before the golden calf, the Yetzer Hara left the Jewish people. At Har Sinai, you had no more Yetzer Hara. No more evil inclination to sin. Once they did the Egel HaZahav, the Erev Rav, they brought the Yetzer Hara back into the Jewish people. And because of that, they sinned in the Midbar, they complained, they despised, and eventually it led to them being kicked out, and all the 40 years they had to be in the desert, and they had to be wiped out over there, the people of that generation. So because of these 3 sins, that Moshe did, he had to be out of Eretz Yisrael, and these were 3 different reasons why he left. Now I know you guys are all asking me, Yaakov, we learned in Shul every single year, why is Moshe Rabbeinu not going to go into Israel? It's the famous thing.
He hit the rock.
He hit the rock, exactly. Shem said, speak to the rock, bring out the water, and what did he do? He hit it instead.
That was on the list, probably.
So it's not on the list.
Oh, it's the
But you know what it
things.
was? Says the Zereshim Shom Ahmad Zin Yishba HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This was not the reason why he was kicked out. It was the stamp.
Yeah.
This was the signature Hashem
Wow.
said, because of the 3 sins that we just mentioned, those are the reason you're kicked out. You could have done teshuvah, you could have davened 515 times, which you tried to do, but this stamped it and he caused it that he was not able to turn it around. The Gemara Rosh Hashanah says, when a person, I think it's Daf Yud Chet over there, says when Hashem signs something, that's it, it's done. You can't annul the decree. So Hashem signed it, he cannot annul the decree. So these were 3 sins. Now we're going to see how each one is going to be connected to each mitzvah that we listed that he didn't understand. What are the 3 mitzvot that we listed that are in the acronym of Nechoshet, which is the final word of last week's parsha? So Nun stands for Ner, exactly. Chet stands for Chodesh.
Chodesh.
Shin stands for Shekalim.
Shekalim.
The first sin was he denied leadership. Ner, we're going to see how the menorah has to do, the Chodesh, the moon, how it has to do with leadership and kingship. Number 2 was the menorah. It has to do with his complaint of why Hashem is doing evil to the people. And number 3 is the Shekalim, which is Keneged the Erev Rav. That one's going to be a little bit interesting, a lot of gematrias. We're going to see how the Machatzita Shekel has to do with the Erev Rav. So number 1 on the list, like we just said, is the moon. Everyone knows the moon shrinks and gets bigger throughout the month. In the beginning of the month, you can't see it.
I mean, it's always one size, no?
No. In the sky, up there in space,
Yeah.
it is. But to our vision, it goes smaller and it goes bigger. So in the beginning, you can't see it. And then slowly, the first, second day of the month, you're starting to see it. And it gets full by 15th, which is the middle of the month. Once you hit number 15, then it starts going down and decreasing, till you hit the end of the cycle. Now it's gone again. So the moon always has the ups and it has the downs. So too Eretz Yisrael. Israel is compared to a gazelle. A gazelle, apparently the skin of the tzvi is not enough for the flesh. Meaning it gets stretched out when it's on the animal. When it's on the animal, it gets stretched. If you would skin the gazelle, and you would see the skin would just go contract. And it would look much, much, much smaller. So same thing with Israel. When the people are inside Israel, Israel expands for them. We see these stories that are in the Gemara Gittin. You see people during the times of the Beit HaMikdash, there was millions and millions and millions of people that were wiped out, hundreds. Where do these numbers come from? You can't fit 100 million people in Israel. So we say Israel extends and expands. Whenever the Jewish people are living there, it grows.
Yeah, but Israel
When
back
they leave,
then,
it shrinks.
Israel back then was also Jordan,
How about right now? It's shrinking.
right?
No, but it's still not that
Israel
big.
was much bigger.
It was a little bit bigger, but it wasn't so much bigger. It still extracts and contracts, okay? So now, the Jewish monarchy is the exact same way. Who was the very first Jew?
Abraham.
Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was the beginning of the Jewish people. 15 generations after Abraham was Shlomo HaMelech. The Zohar says during the times of Shlomo HaMelech, the moon was at its fullest. What does that mean? Every time Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, every generation, it kept growing and growing and growing till we hit Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech, we know, ruled the entire world. Everyone was by him. He was in charge of everything. He built the Beit HaMikdash. We were, like we said, in the golden age. This was the peak. After Shlomo HaMelech, right away, the next thing, his son, the next king, right away the Jewish people already split. Rechavam, he already became the king of Yehudah, and the other 10 tribes had their own thing. There was already a split inside the Jewish people. And slowly by slowly, another 15 generations, representing to the 15 days when the moon decreases from the half point of the month down to the end, all the way till the moon was nothing. Who was the last person in that 30th generation from Abraham Avinu? His name was Tzidkiyahu. Tzidkiyahu was blinded by Nebuchadnezzar. What happens to the moon at the end of the month?
Spear.
It's gone.
Wow.
So he was blinded by Nebuchadnezzar. The Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. The first Beit HaMikdash. The Jews were sent into Galut, and it was the exile. So we see that the moon represents the Jewish mamlachut, the monarchy of the Jewish people, how it rises and how it falls.
So Shlomo Melech was.
Yeah.
Well, why was Abraham nothing?
He was the beginning.
You're saying it was
So the
30
beginning-
generations from Tzidkiyahu, from Avram.
From Aram to Tzidkiyahu, exactly.
But
15.
From the beginning.
Generations, not
It's
years.
Yeah.
big, no?
Generations.
Oh, what?
From the beginning, it's big, no?
No, first day of the
So you're
month.
saying
It's,
he was
it's a
nothing?
little sliver. No, he started the whole process. He started the growth of the Jewish people.
What's the calculation? How many years do they count per generation?
Nah, I'm not sure.
20 probably.
No, it goes by kids. It goes by kids.
20, 25, no?
No, it's not 2025. It goes by kids. So Abraham had Yitzchak. Yitzchak had Yaakov. Yaakov had Yehuda. Yehuda had Peretz. So on and so forth till he hit Shlomo. It was 15 kids down. So this represents, like we said, the moon cycle. Now Moshe Rabbeinu was confused about this mitzvah. The mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh. He says, why should there be ups and why should there be downs? He said, when I'm going to come into Israel, the whole world is going to be complete. No one's going to kick the Jews out. I'm going to build a Beit HaMikdash. It's going to be permanent. We all know if Moshe would have went inside, that's it. It would have been the tikkun of the world. Moshe didn't understand. He's not going in. Hashem told him, you know why you don't understand this mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh? That the Jewish people are going to rise and the Jewish people are going to fall? Because you don't understand one thing. You are not going to Israel. You are out. And that's what was hard about Moshe Rabbeinu. He couldn't understand. He said, Moshe, you're not going to lead the people in, and therefore you will not be the king, and you're not going to permanently set them. What was this sin corresponding to? Which sin did he do because of this? Which sin caused this, actually? Because he denied, initially, the leadership of the Jewish people.
If Moshe would have took him in and...
Then it would have been done. The
Would have
world
been
would have
there.
been complete.
Wow.
We would have been there, the Beit HaMikdash would have been
So
built.
if Moshe didn't complain 3 times...
Now we're going to see there's 3 sins. So the first sin was not to
Didn't
complain,
accept leadership.
but he didn't accept leadership right away.
Then
Hashem had to
second-
convince him, no, you got to do it.
Wasn't that a humbleness thing? Like,
Yeah, wasn't that
who
a-
am I?
Yeah, but it's on his level,
Second, he was complaining.
So that's number 2, exactly. Number 2 was the complaint. And we said it's Keneged. Which mitzvah did he not understand? The second one was the menorah. He didn't know the menorah.
He didn't understand, or we still don't understand?
So we're going to see right now what he didn't understand in the menorah. So the menorah is spelled, when it says make the menorah, it says te'aseh. Te'aseh means make the menorah. Now usually it's spelled as taf, ayin, sin, hey. But over here by the menorah is the only place in the Torah where it has the extra yud. It has an extra yud over there in the spelling. What is this representing? It's a very interesting fact. Shlomo HaMelech in the first Beit HaMikdash didn't have one menorah. He had yud menorot. What's yud, gematria? 10. There is 10 menorahs in the Beit HaMikdash. Why was there 10? So the Shach explains that during the times of the Beit HaMikdash, who was the king? Shlomo. Shlomo ruled over all 70 nations. All 70 nations of the world. He didn't just rule over, the Gemara Megillah says there was 3 kings that ruled over the world. One of them was Achashverosh coming up in Purim, and it lists another 2. The question is, Tosfot I think asks over there, why isn't Shlomo HaMelech put on the list? He ruled over the world. The answer that Tosfot gives is like this. Shlomo didn't just rule over this world. He ruled over the Elyonim v'tachtonim. He ruled over the angelic ministers and down here. He was in charge of Shemayim. He had everyone in his grasp. Everyone was subordinate to him. With controlling the angels of the 70 nations, he was able to control the 70 nations down in this world.
Wow.
And he had the whole entire world in his iron
He
grip.
was greater than Avram, you could say.
He was like really like.
He was on
like
top.
Hashem, meaning Hashem's at that right hand.
He was
man.
right here. It was right the
Who,
right hand
Shlomo?
man. Shlomo HaMelech. Now Shlomo HaMelech,
But didn't he
how did he control the 70 angels above? He had 10 menorahs in the Beit HaMikdash. Each one of these menorahs has 7 candles. 7 times 10 is 70. Each candle that was lit every day was another fire that was able to control a malach up there. And each malach controlled the 70 nations. So he was controlling upstairs and automatically controlling the whole entire downstairs. Now Moshe Rabbeinu, he was confused. He said, why is there only one? Well, I forgot the Shach explains why there's only one in the Mishkan. Because in the Mishkan, where did they need to take over? Only one place. The Jews in the desert. Where did they need to take over? Israel.
Israel.
How many nations are in Israel? We say it every day. In Vavarech David.
3. No, Vayigashi, Vayivachi.
7 nations. There's 7 nations in Israel at that time. So they only needed to take over 7 nations. So they only had one menorah with 7 candles. Because they only had to take over the 7 nations of Israel. Now Moshe was confused. He said, I'm going to go inside Israel, and I'm not going to just take over Israel. We're going to take over the world. We're going to bring a tikkun to the world. We're going to bring completeness. So he was saying to Hashem, Hashem, I don't understand. Why is there only 1 menorah in the Mishkan? There should be 10.
Oh, so he was right.
He was, but his mistake was like this. He didn't understand. Hashem said, you're not going to Israel. You're not going to go inside Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, you're only going to do step 1 of the process. Step 1 of the process is just take over those 7 nations.
Shlomo?
No,
No,
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Moshe.
Moshe Rabbeinu. So he only needed 1 menorah. Then Yoshua is going to come in and do the second step. He's going to go and physically kill all the kings. There was 31 kings, which is the gematria of the Hashem's name, Kel. Kel is 31. This is the name of Hashem that tells us mightiness. These kings were the strongest in the world. These 31 kings, Yoshua went and he slayed them all. So he was the next step in the process, taking over the 31 mighty kings. And who finished off the whole entire thing? Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech at the end, after a few hundred years, he ruled over all 70 nations. So Moshe Rabbeinu initially thought, I'm going to go inside Israel. I'm going to take over the world. We need 10 menorahs. Why was he mistaken? He was mistaken because Hashem said, you're not going to Israel. If he would have went inside, B'zchut Moshe Rabbeinu, we would take over the world. We would be in charge of everything at that exact time. But he sinned. What was the sin Keneged? What did he do? He complained to Hashem. He said, Lama hareota, lama zeh. Why did you do evil to this nation? Why do you make their workload harder? So this was the second sin of Moshe Rabbeinu. Number 3, Machatzita Shekel. We know last week actually, we read Parshat Shkalim. What was Parshat Shkalim about? Every single Jew had to give Machatzita Shekel. Every single Jew had to give half coin. Now Moshe was confused. The half coin symbolizes that the world is incomplete. Obviously, it's a half a shekel. It represents the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, incomplete. So, Her'alo Kadosh Baruch Hu Madbeh Shel Esh. Hashem showed him a coin of fire. This coin weighed a half a shekel. And he showed this to him. And he said, Moshe, you're not bringing the Jewish people into Israel. You guys will stay incomplete. You will not be shalem. You will not be a full shekel. The Shach explains that the word shekel in gematria, but not regular gematria, there's something called atbash. Atbash is when you take the first letter of the Aleph Bet and you interchange it for the last letter. So the Aleph gets interchanged for Taf, the Bet for Shin, Gimel for
Tough as 1.
Reish. So it goes back and forth. So if we do shekel, what's Shin? Shin is going to turn into a Bet. Kuf is going to turn into a Dalet. And Lamed is going to turn into Chaf. Bet 2, Dalet 4, Chaf 20 is
26.
26. 26 is the name of Hashem. Yud Kei, Vav Kei. The word shekel in gematria is Yud Kei, Vav Kei. Now if we take shekel and we split it in half, what do you get? Half of Yud Kei, Vav Kei. Hashem says once the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed, it says in the Gemara in Eruvin, B'Shem Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Elazar. Once the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, the world no longer was able to use the full name of Hashem. We could only use the name Yud Kei, Vav Kei. We take the name in half. Sorry, I said just Yud Kei. Just the name of Kol Neshama Tehalel Yah. That was the only name we were able to use, Yud Kei, which is obviously a weaker name of God. That's why nowadays when we're davening, we don't say the actual pronunciation of Yud Kei Vav Kei. What do we say? Amunai. Yeah?
Right,
Why?
They used to say it, the name.
In the Beit HaMikdash, they used to say the full name of Hashem. It's called Shem Mefurash in the Beit HaMikdash. And I'm pretty sure that Arizal says the Shem Mefurash is the 4-letter Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's just certain nekudot. So back then when they had the Beit HaMikdash, they had Yud Kei Vav Kei. But now we only have Yud Kei. So we're not allowed to pronounce the full name. What would we pronounce? Amunai instead. So this was what Moshe was confused about. Moshe was saying, I don't understand. Why are we only giving half a shekel? Why is the world not going to be complete? I'm going to take the Jews into Mitzrayim. But the problem was, right before the Jews had to give a half a shekel, what caused them to give machatzit shekel? The Egel HaZahav, the golden calf. Who do we say caused the golden calf? Who's the ones that instigated the Egel Hazav? The Erev Rav. The Erev Rav. Who accepted the Erev Rav into the Jewish nation? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem says, you caused this to yourself. You caused for there only to be a split in Hashem's name. Once you bring in idolatry to the world, once we bring in Avodah Zarah with the Egel HaZahav, we canceled Hashem's name. We incompleted it. And we only made it Yud Kei. And this was the third sin of Moshe Rabbeinu, which was accepting the Erev Rav into the Jewish nation. And because of that, he was not able to come into Eretz Yisrael.
You say he was trying to unite the souls or something? That's why he flipped them or
He had his reasons, but it was still a mistake.
Wrong.
It was a mistake because at the end of the day, the Erev Rav, we're going to see right now what happened, why did they do it. They're the ones that caused the Egel HaZahav. So it comes out like this. The final word in Parshat Terumah last week was Nechoshet. Nechoshet is an acronym for 3 mitzvot. Ner, Chodesh, Shkalim, Tireh. Candle, which is the menorah, which we said is Keneged which sin?
The not accepting leadership.
Exactly, not accepting the leadership right away. Then we had the sin of the menorah. What was that Keneged? It was corresponding to the sin of complaining to God. It was complaining to God. And number 3 was Shkalim. That sin, like we said, Machatzit Shekel, was because of the Erev Rav. And they built the golden calf. V'yene'elam einei kol chai. So he says, now we understand why that last word is put next to this week's Parsha. Because this week's Parsha, we don't see Moshe Rabbeinu's name. You look for Moshe, no Moshe here. Why is there no Moshe? Moshe's name was erased from this Parsha. Because Hashem says, I'm erasing you from Israel. You're not coming inside. You're out. And because of that, Yene'elam einei kol chai, you're going to be removed from the eye of all the living from this week's Parsha. And therefore, it's alluding to the death of Moshe Rabbeinu before he enters Israel. If he would have entered Israel, he would have built the Beit HaMikdash. He would have permanently set the Jewish people in the land of Israel, and we would never have any problems, no exiles, no galut. But Moshe Rabbeinu sinned, and he was kicked out of Israel. You had a question?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought he was erased for different reasons.
For different reasons?
This is the only reason why he was erased.
This is not the reason why he was erased.
I thought he has to be erased, no?
Yes, but the erasing is alluding to the fact that he's going to die before he enters Eretz Yisrael. It's just a remez, it's called. Now we spoke about the Erev Rav making the Egel HaZahav. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron have an interesting conversation next week's Parsha. When the Erev Rav make the Egel HaZahav, and they made it, and Moshe is on the mountain, he doesn't know anything. He comes down and he sees this whole entire thing going on, bizarre situation. He goes up to Aaron and he says, Aaron, what's going on? What's happening? What does Aaron respond? Ata yadata et ha'am ki berahu. You know this nation is inside evil. What does it mean, bera? What does it mean inside evil? Just say they're bad people. And number 2, Aaron, why are you saying this nation is bad? You're saying the Jewish people are bad?
No.
Just yesterday, they just accepted the Torah on Har Sinai. They heard Hashem's voice direct. They saw Hashem face to face. How could it be that you're calling this nation is inside evil?
Is it the whole nation or just the Erev Rav?
So that's the answer. We bring down B'Shem the Zohar in next week's Parsha, Parsha Ki Tetzeh. It says, Evi'o Yedei Moshe, Parsha Yitrosha, Man lo yeh yored Erev Rav. The man never came down for the Erev Rav. Everyone hears the man, it was so good. The man never came down for the Erev. What did they eat? They ate the scraps. They ate the garbage. Whatever the Jews used to, throw out, they would have to take it and make their own man, make their own bread. They wouldn't have man, at the doorstep and everything nice. They were jealous of the Jewish people. They said, "Look at these Jews. They have everything good. Let's ruin them. If we're not having a good life, let's also mess over their life." So what do? They instigate. Moshe Rabbeinu is not coming down the mountain.
So they were getting mine as well, or no?
No, they're having scraps.
That's why.
They had the scraps.
I never even thought of that.
Who was having scraps?
The Erev Rav. So they said, guys, Moshe Rabbeinu, it's already 40 days. They were counting wrong. It's already 40 days. Let's make the golden calf. We need a new messenger to lead us to God. And they were making up stuff. And they instigated the golden calf. And they brought the Jewish people all the way down. And this is why we're still here suffering. One of the big reasons It's because of the Egel Zahav.
So the people that died in the desert, were they the Erevav or they were all the Jews?
So many Erevav died, but the whole
The
generation,
whole generation died, no?
of Jews from ages 20 to 60.
So are they still in our midst? Yeah, no? They're
Who, Erevav?
Yeah.
They could be.
How? If they all died out.
No, they all
Yeah,
died
what do you
out.
think? Jerry Nadler, all these
But
guys.
how? They
No,
all
I
died
thought-
out.
So honestly, I don't like
It-
saying things I never saw
What-
inside.
Okay.
But
Not
sometimes I
obvious.
heard that the Erevav were wiped out in the desert. Sometimes I heard a little bit went inside Israel. I never really saw the answer to this. You guys could look it up. You could
I
let me know.
thought after already 3-4 generations, it
I
all
don't know.
goes away.
I don't know. But the Erevav were jealous of the Jewish people. So when Aharon responded, what was he really saying? What was behind his words? Atayadata eta'am. He said, you know that this nation, which nation?
The Egyptians.
The nation of the Erev Rav,
Right.
which were the Egyptians. Erev Rav ki berahu. They are in evil. Why does it say bera? If you take the words bera, it's bet, resh, ayin. Flip it around a little bit. Erev. Erev Rav. He's saying it's the nation of the Erev Rav. Flip around the letters a little bit more. What do you get? Ra'av. They're hungry. The Erev Rav are hungry. Hungry for what? For man. They want to be treated the same way as the Jewish people. And because of that, they did bera. They did evil and they
Yeah,
brought the
but-
Egel HaZahav.
Isn't that like waiting for a problem to happen? Like why didn't
Why didn't they get it? Right. Like if
Why didn't they get it? They didn't. We're going to see.
Did
That's it.
converts get
Guys,
it?
it's the next line. It's the next
People
line.
with. Oh, I'm sorry.
Next
Sorry.
line. No. It's good. It's a good question. It's the next line. Now you guys are asking why didn't they get it? So the Shach explains in Parsha B'Shalach that the Erev Rav were not able to taste the man when it came down. Why? Because man was a spiritual food. If you were spiritually up there, then you had this spiritual consistency of the man. You didn't have to, bake it, do this, anything. It was ready to be eaten. Ready to eat, crack open the package, and it's yours. But the Erev Rav inside of them, they were not so good. They were coarse. And they were more into the physicalities, the gashmias. So because they were more into the physical world, therefore the man turned from spiritual to physical. So even that man that they got was a physical, unprocessed food. They had to go, they had to grind it, they had to knead it. It says the Arizal students, they were actually going and grinding and kneading and baking. It says in Parshat Aman, they grinded, they kneaded. Who was that? It was the Erev Rav.
Wow.
The Erev Rav. They didn't have food come to them on a silver platter, on the dew.
Like what we're doing now, basically. They got them.
Exactly. They had to work for the man. So a big lesson we can learn from this part of the Erev Rav is we have to realize what's the ikar, what's the main purpose we're in this world. We're in this world to serve Hashem. Everything else, yes, you need the physicalities, you need the fancy stuff. That you can have. No one's saying not to have it. Go for it. But what's the main purpose you're in this world? You're in this world to serve God. And when you're going to serve God, you're going to learn Torah, you're going to do mitzvot, you're going to work on your midot, you're going to do everything perfect. Hashem says, don't worry, everything's going to come easy. The food is going to come easy. Your house is going to come easy. Your wife is going to come easy. Everything is just going to come on a silver platter for you. As long as you're learning, you're doing mitzvot, you take it when you're in business, you do it honestly, you're working on your midot, you're doing things in the spiritual realm, Hashem is going to give you, like the man, spiritual food.
So what
You're
if-
not going to have to work hard for the food.
Question.
But if you focus on the physicalities, focus on the gashmis, you make your whole entire life about getting that new stuff, getting the new car, building the nicer house, trying to show off and impress other people, what are you going to end up having to do? You're going to end up having to work harder for everything that you're originally going to
Can I
supposed
answer
to
your
get.
question?
Yes.
What if you wake up, you pray 3 times a day, you learn,
Okay.
you do mitzvot, but still you don't get it.
Don't get what?
So everyone's
What are you
decided
not
on
getting?
Rosh
I wanna
Hashanah.
know
You can have a
No,
lot of
no.
sins. I don't want to say in public that you might have a lot of
Millions he's
sins.
talking about.
I don't want to say in public that you might have a lot of
Yeah,
sins, but you might have a lot of sins. You know that, right? I might have a lot of sins. That's why maybe things are not coming easy for me.
Things take time.
You gotta do teshuvah. We gotta all work on ourselves, and B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem will make us like the Jews in the desert. We're not gonna have to work for the man. Rather, the man's gonna come to us at our doorstep very easily. Baruch Adonai La'olam. Amen. V'amen.